If we take a peptide that we don't need when we could be taking a peptide that we really need, we're going to miss out on the opportunity of a lot of amazing results in our own body. So more peptides do not mean more healing. Hey there, I'm Bria, and welcome to the Period Whisperer podcast. If you're over 35 and ready for real answers about your hormones, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and stay with us. Hey there, sister. Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast. I am your host, Bria Gadd, fellow perimenopause sister, right in the trenches with you. And you are here today. We are in our mini series about peptides, which I have done a couple of mini series before. If you haven't listened to them, you can go back and check those out. But I'm doing this because unless you're under a rock, peptides are everywhere right now, and they're not going anywhere. There's so much conversation, and I have had some amazing experiences with them myself. They have been like the icing on the cake, the sprinkles and the cherry on top of helping me feel like the best I can. Because how are you feeling in your body? I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're on your way to feeling great. And what I have really found is that these can be tools to help us do that. But there is a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of willy-nilly doing things. And I just feel a responsibility as a practitioner to give you information so that you can make the right decision for yourself. So welcome to episode 3. We are going to talk about the peptides that actually help in perimenopause when used correctly. Now, these aren't all the peptides that can really help in perimenopause, but these are the ones that I have used in practice, seen in practice, tried myself, many of them. So I want to give you real data that I know I've actually have experience with for you. So today in this episode of this mini series, and if you haven't listened to the last two, you don't have to right now, but I would go back and listen to those ones just to build your knowledge, especially if you're either already on peptides or you're interested in getting on peptides or you have no idea what peptides are. I didn't need to say you might be living under a rock. I just find that it is everywhere right now. So today we're going to open the peptide cabinet, but we're going to open it responsibly because if the first 2 episodes in this series were me saying, don't use peptides as a shortcut, today is me saying, used strategically, some of these tools can be extraordinary. They can be healing. They can help recover. They can impact your mood. They can impact your libido. They can speed up gut repair. They can help you feel less achy in your body. They can help you put on lean muscle. They can modulate your immune system. They can boost your mitochondria, which provides you more energy, better detox. But please hear me when I say this. The right peptide at the wrong time is still the wrong move. And so I want to start this, because of a lot of the noise right now, I want to start this and talk a little bit about the FDA because there's a lot of talk right now, and maybe you're not getting this information, and that's totally okay. I mean, there's plenty of things that I don't know about that I won't know about unless someone tells me. But if you have been listening or interested in peptides, if you're seeing it come up on your algorithm, of course, if you're listening to other podcasts on peptides because you're in this conversation, you may have heard some version of the fact that the FDA is cracking down or peptides are coming back, right? Like there's 2 different things coming around. So let's simplify that for you. This is not a story of peptides being good or being bad. This is a story about regulation, about safety, sourcing, and compounding, and probably in some cases, money making, as we all know. But here's what I think you need to know. After compounding safety failures years ago, the Drug Quality and Security Act tightened oversight and created 503A, which is traditional compounding pharmacies. These are pharmacies, 503A pharmacies are ones that are able to prescribe to an individual, and 503B outsourcing facilities. These are compounding pharmacies that might source to a clinic or to a provider, for example. And in 2023, the FDA pushed several peptides into a more restricted category, over some unresolved concerns around purity, around immunogenicity, around toxicity, around, I think, just general insufficient human data. And now, where we at right now, it's May, and in July of this year, there's an advisory meeting reviewing whether some should have broader compounding access again. So can we put these back in a safer category again? Do we have what we need to do that? Notice that this is not the FDA saying that peptides don't work. It's asking, how do we ensure quality? How do we avoid a gray market? How do we protect patients? And honestly, I think that supports exactly what I've been saying. Like, don't source peptides like mystery powder from the internet and play chemist in your kitchen. Listen, some of you can. Some of you are researched and some of you are educated and some of you might choose to do that. But for most of us, and as a practitioner, that's not the path that I'm going to take. So when it comes to actually choosing a peptide, now that we understand kind of what's happening out there, because you can get a lot of peptide access right now. Some from 503A pharmacies, again, that's what I like to use, and some on different markets. I'm not here to say that either are right or wrong. I just want to give you that information to make that decision for yourself. For me, I like a little bit more safety when I'm injecting something into my body. So I don't choose peptides by trend. I choose them by physiology. And maybe I should clarify that. I guess if I had all the money in the world, I might play a little bit more with peptides here and there just to say like, hey, like what does this do for me? Because there are so many exciting ones out there, but for the purpose of how do I feel my best in perimenopause and beyond, we really want to choose them by physiology, by what's going on in your body. Because peptides don't answer the question of how did we get here? Like, why am I here in this situation where I am having digestive issues, where every food I eat is bothering me, where I'm randomly bloated every day, where my periods are so uncomfortable still, where I'm having acne, where my moods are all over the place, where I have no energy. They don't answer that question, unfortunately, right? They may help us get out faster. And that's really what I like to look at them as. Again, that kind of icing on the cake, the cherry on top, because when used strategically, they can help us get there faster. And frankly, I am one of those people who wants to get there faster. I do. So let's talk about some of, I think, the high impact peptides. And the last two episodes, I talked more about the more of the weight loss peptides, the GLP-1, the GIP. Today, we're going to talk about some of the other ones that I use quite frequently in practice with high impact. So the first ones I want to talk about are healing and repair. These are often, I think, where my ears perk up, right? Because I'm often working with women healing and repairing and getting them out of health debt specifically. So when someone needs tissue healing, soft tissue healing in your body, like maybe you're dealing with a bit of tennis elbow or plantar fasciitis, or you're having, just aches in your body or dealing with inflammation you don't know, right? So if you need tissue healing that way, if or maybe you had an injury that's just not healing or you've come out of surgery, when you are dealing with gut permeability support, and this is one I see so frequently on GI maps with my clients, a very weakened mucosal barrier. So now we're eating things that should be healthy that we've always eaten and now it's irritating us and causing us issues. If you have a high inflammatory burden, like even some of your inflammatory markers are elevated on your blood work, like your HSCRP. If you're having issues recovering from your workouts, recovering again from an injury, from surgery, this is when we can look at a few healing and repair peptides. So my favorites are BPC 157, which is often really discussed for gut and connective tissue repair, and TB 500, which is recovery and repair signaling. So we see those two put together. They're very effective put together. They're often called the Wolverine stack. I've heard me talk about this before if you've listened to the other episodes. I have loved this one. For me, I use this with my clients, certainly with their gut issues, but last year I had finished like a block of weight training and I was having like just issues in my elbow, and it was impacting my everyday. Like I'd wake up at night and it would hurt. When I went to use the chuck it for my dog, who I walk twice a day, I couldn't throw with this arm. And I remember going on vacation last summer, and it was bugging me just trying to pull my suitcase around. Like anytime I had to lift something, it was really inconvenient and annoying to me. I stopped weight training for like 3 months. I took actual full time off of fitness for a little while. I did everything I could in my own toolbox, and nothing changed for 3 months. And then I did 2 months of BPC 157 and TB 500, and that it's gone. Like, it absolutely improved. So that was a big one for me that I really loved. Another one in the healing and repair is something called KPV, which is very, very interesting for inflammatory gut support. So if you're someone who is dealing with, gut issues, or you've had long-term gut issues, or you're dealing with, pain in your body, this could be a really good option for you. Now, these are not permissions or permission slips, will say, to ignore an angry gut, right? They will support the repair, but they don't replace figuring out why the gut is inflamed in the first place. And they don't replace the building blocks that need to be there for a healthy gut. So with my clients, we are always going to be, after a GI map, we're going to be looking at what needs to happen in the gut. What is your gut needing to bring it back into a healed, sealed state? And then we can use something like BPC 157 to speed that up, right? To move it faster along, to shorten that healing process, which can be so refreshing, right? We all want things yesterday, but I do think in midlife we recognize we can't get things yesterday. But if I can get it tomorrow, yeah, I'd like it tomorrow if I can't get it yesterday. Just remember that with the healing and repair, with your gut stuff, we have to support the terrain. We can't just decorate the dysfunction, right? We need to make sure the pieces, the receptors, everything that is in there for the gut to heal so that we can move this to that next level. The next ones that I actually find super fascinating and I'm getting more into myself are for brain and mood. And two that I am loving are called CMAX and Selank. For the right person, these can be super fascinating. You would use these if you had like a very hyper vigilant nervous system, right? You're just always jumpy, always like anxious. You can never seem to get yourself to calm down. If you're having issues focusing, right? If you're finding almost like, we're certainly recognizing more neurodivergent brains. We're certainly recognizing more people with ADHD. But sometimes just in perimenopause, with the moving and the on and off of our hormones and the fluctuations of our hormones, we can lose some of that focus, and it can almost feel like we have ADHD. So whether you have it or not, if you're having these focus issues, these ones have shown some really great promise, and if you need support with stress resiliency work, right? You just can't seem to get ahead. But these, again, are not substitutes for your nervous system regulation, right? They can support that work. They can help you get there faster, but they don't do the work for you. So we still need to make sure that we are finding ways to manage the stress that we have, that we're reducing the stress load inside of our body and outside of our body. They're not going to fix the source of the leak into the body. We have to make sure we're doing that underlying work. Okay, the next one that I see really, really helpful in perimenopause is one for immune and longevity called thymosin alpha 1. This is really a different category entirely. You would use this for immune modulation, for chronic infection, for complex recovery cases, and I think this is where practitioner guidance really matters. But for anyone who really is constantly sick, maybe you travel a lot, maybe you have young kids and you're always sick all the time, this one can be very powerful to help boost your immune system and support it, again, as long as you are doing the underlying pieces. We can't build a house out of no ingredients. We can't make cookies out of no ingredients, right? We have to have the ingredients there. We've got to have the working oven, and then this will like speed up that process for you. Okay, Let's talk about cellular energy and peptides that can help there. I think this is a huge one for women in midlife. It certainly has been for me because one of the biggest complaints I hear from my clients is I just don't have energy. Like we almost can't even care about weight loss, which is usually the biggest pain for many people because we are too tired to even care, right? You're waking up tired, you're just dragging all day. There's that massive slump in the afternoon or around the time when the kids come home and you have 100 things left to do. So these two peptides, NAD+, which you've heard me talk about a lot, I'm a huge lover of it, and MOTS-c are really amazing for energy production, for metabolic flexibility, for aging support. I found when I used NAD, consistently for a couple of months, I really noticed like my attention, my alert, my repair in my body to just pick up. And overall, I just felt like, oh my gosh, here I am again. Here's my spark. Um, but again, if you are running low on cortisol, if you are under eating your protein, if you are not getting yourself to bed on time and you're only sleeping 5 hours, like MOTS-c and NAD, they're not going to rescue that for you, right? You cannot outpeptide a body that's in energy debt, right? We have to get out of the debt. And if we're a little stuck there because we're in perimenopause and the hormones are bajiggity, then that's where these tools can be amazing to help move us to that next level and do the other work that we want to be doing. Okay, finally, we got to talk about detox and skin, of course, right? So because I think another thing we complain a lot about in midlife is aging quickly, right? Like getting in the mirror and being like, "Oh my gosh, why do I look older today than I did yesterday?" And that's where I think glutathione and the copper peptide GHKCU can really be beneficial. These ones are used for oxidative load, for detoxification support, for tissue and skin repair. So it's not gonna be like you had Botox, but it can be very supportive, in that journey of trying to keep youthful skin and trying to keep collagen, working for you. So they can be lovely additions, not foundations, right? We still have to make sure we are eating the right foods, we are taking care of our body, we are hydrating properly and getting our minerals in. Those are the foundational pieces that we really need, getting our sunshine, things like that. But what's so powerful, I think, when we talk about all of these different peptides and these tools that can really apply to how we're feeling in midlife, right? When we think about like any digestive stuff or any inflammatory stuff or not able to do your workouts the same, that's where the BPC 157 and TB 500 and KPV can come in. If you're feeling that brain fog in midlife, that's where the CMAX and Selenk can come in. If you're just sick all of the time, you're just feeling constantly run down, there's your thymosin alpha 1. If it's an energy issue for you and you just can't seem to get ahead, we have your NAD plus and your MOTS-c. And if you are dealing with like, oh, why am I just rapidly aging before my eyes and I want proper support, that can come down to detox and skin health. And that is where glutathione and GHKCU really shine. All of these we can look at lab markers for. All of them we can when we look under the hood of your body, and this is why you always hear me talking about the value of functional lab work. I'm really starting to believe it should be such a standard. We should, in fact, I feel like we're really good with our finances and in like allocating, okay, this money needs to be saved for this and this money needs to be saved for that. And I really think we want as women to start thinking about, okay, what do I save for my health? How do I allocate a little bit of money for my health? And that money should come, I think, to functional lab work just once a year, maybe every 2 years if you need to stretch it, to really look under the hood of your body and see what's coming down the line. For me now, when I feel really quite good, what I love about seeing annual blood or my annual functional labs, my Dutch, my GI map, my blood work, is I can kind of see what direction my body is pointing at. We can see, which way am I leaning compared to last year? Have I improved? Is there anything I'm missing? And so we're never having to do a deep health debt like revival, right? If you imagine when you're really suffering, we're in this debt and that debt is compounding. It is hard. It's uphill. It's worth it, but it's uphill to get out of that debt. So we don't want to get back into that debt. We want to be constantly working on how do we have extra energy to invest, extra money to invest, right? And extra energy to invest in ourselves. And that's where I think these tools can be very supportive. And when we have lab markers, when we see your oxidative stress levels or your glutathione levels, when we see your inflammatory markers, when we get to see like what's going on in your gut, these things help us to understand, hey, what would be the most bang for your buck right now? What's going to give you the best results? Because we can't do everything at once. And in fact, that's the next thing I really want to share with you, I think, is that I'm seeing peptide stacking becoming kind of biohacker fashion. It's becoming trendy. Oh, I'm on this and this and this and this and this. And honestly, I think that makes me a little nervous. Your body, your choice. But what I do know in practice is that more variables makes it harder to know what's helping. So can you start with one, recognize what it's doing for you, and then choose to add on another? Yes, I think that is more possible. Plus, peptides should be cycled. We do have like receptor fatigue that can happen when we're constantly taking something. So just like our supplements, for the most part, unless you have a known deficiency you are working on, our supplements should be cycled. We should, see how the body is doing without these things all on its own. We might not need them anymore. So more variables makes it harder to know what's actually helping you, and of course, more stimulation does not necessarily equal better outcomes. And I'm going to say that one again just for myself. More does not mean better because I know that there are a lot of women out there like me, and maybe you're like me, I'm like, I'm just gonna do it all. I just want to do it all at once. Like, just give it to me, I'll get it done. Because that's what we do as women. We're so good at just executing, making stuff happen. But it doesn't necessarily equal out that way. We do want to go kind of low and slow in this journey. Layering should be earned, right? We want to make sure we need it, and then if we don't necessarily need it, but we want to play with it, okay, but let's make sure everything else is really solid and that we're targeting the lowest hanging fruit for you, right? If we take a peptide that we don't need when we could be taking a peptide that we really need, we're going to miss out on the opportunity of a lot of amazing results in our own body. So, more peptides do not mean more healing. Sometimes, in fact, it means more confusion for you and for your body. I've had clients come in wanting all the sexy things first, right? The MOTS-c, the GLPs, like the weight loss stuff, BPC. But when we ran a Dutch, and cortisol is flat, and we ran the GI map, and the gut is inflamed, we have to start by stabilizing your fuel. We have to support your minerals. We've got to get that protein up, and we have to calm that inflammation. Like, what is creating that inflammation? And then we can add the peptide. That's your roadmap. We talked about that last week. How do we get that to that next level? Suddenly, when we go in this order, when we like ice that cake with the peptide, then it works. And not because the peptide changed, but the body changed. The body and the environment for that peptide, changed for you. And I don't say this part plainly, like this is why I work with a certified 503A compounding pharmacy and a telehealth company that I trust, because sourcing really matters, right? The quality matters. Medical oversight does matter. And if someone has symptoms beyond optimization goals, that's where practitioner support really matters even more. So I only recommend peptides to my clients once we've had a conversation. So if you're listening right now and you are curious about whether what something's right for you, please book a call. Let's have a conversation about what the right investment of your health savings is for you. How do we get you where you want to go faster? Because we all want to be there yesterday, but tomorrow's good enough, right? Let's just get there faster. So if you remember one thing from today, the right peptide at the wrong time is still the wrong peptide. Used thoughtfully, some of these can absolutely accelerate healing, but they really work best in a body that is already on a trajectory towards health. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some of these, like the healing and repair ones, can be so powerful and again, helping us get there faster. Next week, I hope you come back. We're rounding out this mini series. We're going to talk about newer peptides that I know people are asking me about constantly. We're going to talk about tesamorelin. We're going to talk about DSIP, which I'm very interested in. We're going to talk more about peptides that I think you're going to start to hear more and more about in the interwebs. So, take these tools today and take action. Maybe that action for you is just to go back and listen to these other podcast episodes. Maybe that action is to start allocating funds for your deeper health savings. Maybe that action is to book a call. Swipe up, book a call with me. Let's have a conversation about what is going on and decide if you even need functional lab work. Maybe you don't. Maybe you could use a peptide and it would be beneficial for you, but we have to have that conversation. I want to be your guide to support you to that next level, or find a guide if it's not me, right? But look for that support. I think it's super important to make sure that you are being supported on this journey and looking under the hood. Okay, sister, one more tool for you to go be more in your life and not just less on a scale. I will look forward to catching you in the next episode.
If you're 35 plus and ready to stop guessing, start understanding your hormones, and feel your absolute best, hit subscribe. That's what we do here.